Hello. Yes, sorry. I was just having some technical issues, but I have that resolved now. But the problem was is my microphone wasn't working, but now it's working again. So thankfully, I've got that sorted out. So today, I will be discussing secret societies and my knowledge of them, and like my encounters with them and my relationships with them and things like that, and just generally what they're about, and I'll start with like my own family history of secret societies, where my great grandfather was in the Freemasons, and he was quite high up in that, and he did very well for himself as a local businessman. And hey, Connie, nice to see you. He was in the Freemasons, and he did very well as a local businessman. And the extent of what he was in that secret society for, I guess, was networking for business connections and things like that. And I guess that did him a lot of favors. And also, I guess in the end, when he had cancer, he had a doctor who was a Freemason give him basically, essentially, assisted suicide. And assisted suicide is not legal to this day in the UK. So what that doctor did was broke the law because my great grandfather was a Freemason essentially, and that gets to what secret societies are about. It's something that is outside of the law. And JFK was not a big fan of secret societies of the Freemasons, and the Klan, I suppose you could call the Ku Klux Klan a secret society, is what it started off as anyway. It became a paramilitary organization, but like it is now. But originally, it was a secret society, basically a lot like the Freemasons, in the way it operated, in the rituals and things like that, and the pageantry. But obviously Freemasons didn't go out doing that sort of stuff. Hey, Punksy, good to see you. And yeah, it's an interesting history he had, and he was interested in like the occult and things like that. It's fine. Drive safe, Punksy. Drive safe, Punksy. And yeah, he was interested in the occult and things like that, so he has an interesting background, and very, very interesting. But he he had like these kind of spiritual insights. You know what I mean? He came close to death in the Second World War. Like he ran over a landmine on his motorcycle, and it gave him epilepsy. So he had like close encounters with death, and I think people who have close encounters with death like become like by nature like very spiritual, and also have the abilities like to see things that most others haven't or won't, because they've partly crossed over to the other side, I think. So I think that that's where it came from with him. And I think he ultimately passed that on to my grandmother. She was very spiritual and very superstitious, and she ultimately passed that on to me. My mother's superstitious and she believes in the spiritual stuff, but she's seen a ghost. My mother's actually seen a ghost, but that's for a different life. But yeah, secret societies are very interesting. I've had relationships with many a secret society because I find them fascinating. You know, I've never actually tried to get into the Freemasons. I'm sure I could do because of my great grandfather being a prominent Freemason. I'm sure I wouldn't have any issue there. And apparently, it's a lot easier to get in now than it was back then. Apparently, back then you had to be like suggested by someone who was already in the Freemasons, whereas now you can like apply to join, and like they like accept you or decline. So that's how most secret societies are. There's a lot in the UK. There's a lot of like they're like they supposedly private gentlemen's like dinner clubs and things like that, but there were a lot of underground dealings go on like behind closed doors, essentially, like get favors for favors and corruption within politics and those places are hotbeds for things like that happening. So they serve a purpose. But as for my own involvement in secret societies, you know, I guess you could say like I've been involved in like like pagan secret societies and things like that. I've been involved in various different groupings in that, and I'm involved in one currently, and it's I would say where it comes from the UK originally, and it's a lot of it's been misrepresented in the media. People like to claim a lot of stuff about it, but it's all a load of nonsense. I as far as I can say anyway, because in my involvement, like they like to say stuff like, "Oh, there's all these sorts of like bad people involved in that group and things like that." But the reality is, all those people who are assholes, who I know are assholes, they have been kicked out. They're not in the group when they're exposed to be assholes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm in a group where people who were like child abusers are not accepted, basically. Things like that. People who are scumbags, essentially, are not accepted within the group. Because there's a lot of negative stereotypes about paganism. I'm not about killing people. I'm not about harming, animals and things like that. That's like the last thing in my mind. Uh, to me, I guess it's about symbolizing my relationship with nature, and doing it, in a deeper sense as well. It allows me to represent myself in more of an extended metaphor than a physical act. It allows me to use physical acts rather than extended metaphors to represent how I feel and what I think, and I guess those rituals that I do, which I'm going to be uploading videos of soon, they really show what it is I'm about. You know what I mean? I'm not out there doing like evil things. You know what I mean? I'm just doing chants, and praising my gods. And it's a kind of thing, that I do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, really. And as for my involvement in secret societies, what I've seen is I've like seen like varying levels. There's differing levels to all of them. There's like the outside to like any of them, really, and that's kind of like for like generally the public face of it. Yeah, put Skull and Bones. It's generally the public face of it, and essentially anyone can really join the public face of these things. Not anyone, but like most people could. It's not like it's not like it wouldn't be a miracle if you could, if you did, you type of thing. You know what I mean? But then you've got the inner core, and the inner core are made up of people who people on the outside never see, and people even within the organization, the secret society, barely ever see. So if at all, so that's kind of how these things work, and with good reason. You know what I mean? Because you can't really manage and change societies if you've got insiders like reporters or people from rival groups infiltrating or and whatever. So they're called secret societies for a reason. That's why it's secrets in the name. And from what I'm in, I'm not in I wouldn't call it a secret society. I'd call it a pagan group, because it's not. There is obviously an inner. There's obviously an inner core. I'm not going to say there isn't, because there is, of people, and I don't know them personally. And I wouldn't claim to, but they may know of me. They might do. They might not. But I don't know them personally, and most people don't know them personally. And I guess it's because I've not sought them out. I respect their privacy, and I understand that the type of magic that they're performing is such that it requires them to be isolated. You have to be a Freemason to be anywhere in politics. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And back in the 1800s, there was even an anti-Freemason party in this country. A lot of people don't realize that they nearly won an election as well. formed into the Whig Party, and they're another party of American history that disappeared. You know, there used to be the Whigs in England as well, where Whiggism started in England. It's a very unusual type of philosophy. Basically, it's essentially liberalism, but with a small L. You know, big tent liberalism. So like civil liberties and things like that, but unusual in other areas where it believed in like a strong federal government. So it's kind of contradictory in its philosophy. But I digress from secret societies. Yeah, but yeah, what I'm involved in, I would call it a pagan group. You know what I mean? It's not a secret society because anyone can be in it. It's a movement. You know what I mean? And I'd call us, you know, traditional pagans is what we would call ourselves, really. Some would call themselves Satanists within that, you know. I mean, I don't mind being called a Satanist. It's just when you say Satanist, people just think human sacrifices and things like that. The elites and what they do in their occultism is very different to what I do. I'm not into like Kabbalism, and I'm not into like the child abuse elements of that sort of thing. Because there isn't any in what I do. What they do is very different. They're drawing from mainly Eastern occultism, so like occultism from like Israel and the Middle East and like Iran and Iraq, like that type of occultism. For whatever reason, I don't know, because very few of them are even from that part of the world who are in the elites. But most of them are from the West, like me. But you know, I do occultism that's West centric, that's Western focused. Skull and Bones, all of them is Eastern focused. You know, and I think personally, I think it may be because some of them like to pretend they're Christian, and obviously Christianity has its roots in the East. So I guess that it's a respectable level of occultism, I suppose. But Skull and Bones is very interesting, and so is Bohemian Grove. You know, people can say a lot of shit about Alex Jones, but he did lift the lid on Bohemian Grove. You know, and I've spoken about this earlier in my channel's history, where he actually went to Bohemian Grove, and you know, lots of like big things happened there in the redwoods in California, in Northern California. It happened every year in the summer. Like the leaders from all over the world go out there and they have like these rituals that they do, these like Canaanite rituals, and they like no women are allowed there, you know, which is kind of strange. And like loads of like the existence of the atom bomb was actually revealed at that place, you know. So lots of big things in history have happened, and like uh, Tony Blair took Gordon Brown there before he like became Prime Minister of the UK, and Tony Blair was the one who like resigned so that Gordon Brown could become Prime Minister. And then that's like lots of even like things from like outside of the United States have been decided. You know, it's for all over the world type of thing. It's a big thing. It's a big deal, and not many, very few people know about it, which is crazy. You know, there's outside of Alex Jones's documentary, there's not a lot of literature and like film on it with good reason, you know. And religions control most people who would be inclined to vote for these evil pricks. And yes, I know all about Bohemian Grove and Bohemian Grove amongst others. That's very true. That's very 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 true. You know, there's Bohemian Grove is quite an unusual place. Richard Nixon described it as probably one of the strangest places he's ever been, and that's saying something with him. You know, he probably went to some very odd places, uh, you know, in all of his shady dealings, uh, you know, and yeah. So there's the ones that are linked to the establishment. All of them are ultimately linked to the establishment in terms of secret societies, but ones that are more so than others, i.e., the Freemasons and Bohemian Grove and the Skull and Bones and ones like that. And I'm sure there are others that we don't even know the names of that are for like the ultra elites who we don't even know exist. You know, people who are like so rich they can like afford that type of privacy, where people don't even know who they are, or where they live, or how they've gotten all that money. Rob Ware is a member, Grateful Dead founder. Yeah. That honestly doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me, and all the kind of acid that was linked to that band. It wouldn't surprise me if it was being supplied by the U.S. government and made by the U.S. government, and all those concerts were fronts essentially for acid experiments on the population, and to maybe from a musical perspective, the not to get too left field, but obviously I know about putting symbolism in music and things like that. Being a musician myself, maybe there was some uh, manipulation of the lyrics and the songs to make people Manchurian candidates, or like think or implant certain thoughts in people's heads, whilst they're on acid, because you're more suggestible in that state, Not saying it always goes in, because it doesn't, because there's a good chance you may wake up the next day and not remember a thing, consciously anyway, but you may remember it subconsciously, and you might be carrying that with you for a while. So these are things that people don't really understand and don't like to think about, but they're real, And do I believe Epstein is dead? No, I don't. I think I think he was there was a body switch, and he's in Israel. Honestly, I think he's in Israel with the help of the Mossad, the Israeli secret services, because they were and the Black Cube, they were helping what's his name, Weinstein, as well. They don't do well. They don't put a good image for the country by helping men like that. To be honest with you, it's just it's just because they're rich doesn't mean that they need to help them. It's a bit of a stupid concept, to be honest with you. It's like I guess it might not be a. I think it's a. Some people say it's not a coordinated thing, but I think it's a coordinated thing. So I think that these guys were essentially being used by Mossad. He was he's being used by Mossad to blackmail people, blackmail world leaders into doing Israel's bidding, because Israel is becoming something of a pariah state at the moment, and its only real allies are the UK and the US. And I'm just getting some water. And essentially, the reality is that all those cameras and equipment and recording equipment on Epstein's Island was there for that purpose, to blackmail world leaders and celebrities in order to push that agenda. Because Israel's becoming a pariah state, because they're like shooting dead like the Palestinians, like kids and stuff. And like I see all this stuff on social media, so they can't lie about it. And it's not this. When I say Israel, this isn't an attack on all Jews, because all Jews are not Israeli, and all Jews don't have a connection to Israel. So it's the Israeli government who I have a problem with. I have a problem with the US government. I have a problem with probably every government, So I think they're all corrupt. They're all in it. They're all in it for the wrong reasons, and they're all there to control the population and to stop people from turning their lives into poetry with all these stupid laws and regulations. Oh man, they had Israeli art students must have living in the Twin Towers before 9/11. Exactly. Yeah, I've always thought that they had a hand in that, to be honest with you, because I've seen footage of like of young Israelis like celebrating when it happened. So like they must giving the impression to me that they knew what was going on and knew what it meant for them. It meant that America would go like all in the Middle East, and take out all the countries that are its enemies, essentially, which it failed to do, and you really can't in those places, because especially Afghanistan, uh, you know, it's a difficult place, In a message, I hope I didn't bother you too much. I'm just going to send a message and get back to someone. I hope it doesn't kick me off, but if it does, it's I'm all right type of thing. I'm back. Yeah, yeah, I'm back. Hope. Yeah, yeah. The dancing Israelis. Yes, we were there to document the arrest. Yeah, yeah, and they got pulled over as well. They got pulled over as well. And when asked, like, they're asked, why are you pulling us over? We're on your side, type of thing. And it's like, God, it's and the thing is that they have agents within ISIS. The Mossad have agents within ISIS who act as, agent provocateurs more than anything else, who do attacks to, give them some more leeway. Uh, and that's the kind of dirty tactics that government is playing. And every government plays these tactics, But it's quite disturbing, I think, that a supposed ally of the United States, did that and has done other things as well in the past, where they shot down a they sunk a U.S. ship in I think it was Lebanon or Egypt by mistake, allegedly by mistake. But yeah, still, it's odd, in a situation where there was no combat either, is odd. It's not like they can claim friendly fire because there was no combat going on at the time. There's no war, it was a ceasefire. So those are all very, very interesting, and I'd love to know what it is that makes the leaders so interested in the East. But I guess they actually believe in that sort of thing. They actually believe in. I guess they believe in, like, God and the devil, whereas I believe in, like, multiple gods who Christians would probably call the devil. And Muslims and Jews. That's the way I look at it. But my gods, I don't think that they're either one way or the other. They're not really good or really bad. They're beyond that. They're beyond these things, because I think good and bad are kind of man-made creations, and they're beyond our conception in that way. So that's how I look at it. And I see them in everything. I see them in nature. I see them in animals. Like alligators and wolves. Those types of animals. Big animals, predators. Strong animals. But more about secret societies. I think you know, there's a lot of them that don't get mentioned very often. But you've got Aleister Crowley's order, the Ordo Templar Orientis, who I have feuded with for quite a while, and they're a secret society. They're all about that like Eastern crap, you know. Whereas to me, it's like yeah, to be fair, because I don't get it personally, because these people aren't from the East. If they were from the East, I could understand why they would be interested in Eastern occultism, but they ain't fucking from there. And I think within paganism, you've got to have a real connection to that sort of thing for it to work, and I just couldn't have a connection to a place where I wasn't like born, or where my people hadn't like been for some time, like here. Whereas I wasn't born here, but people from where I was born basically started this whole show pretty much. So that's the way I look at it. I'm a lot more at home here than I would be in, like, I don't know, somewhere like in Mongolia or Nepal. Although those places, although Nepal is very nice, the Himalayas, the laws there are pretty out there, in terms of strictness. Like, I think they're pretty strict on alcohol and smoking and stuff like that. I've quit cigarettes, but if I go somewhere where it's like not great to smoke weed, I probably would find myself smoking cigarettes just to kind of, compensate, I suppose. And but I've been good in that sense. I've not cheated on my no smoking tobacco anymore thing, which was hard for me originally because I used to put tobacco in my joints, and it's a very different type of smoking it with tobacco in than with just weed in. It's you get more elevated, and that's generally why I would do it. There'd be times where I'd yeah, just yeah. Sorry, I was just reading a message. Sorry. Uh, Back to what I was saying. There's yeah. Um, it's funny how like you get into these things. I'm in a group that is quite secretive in its ways, but I'm very public. You know what I mean? I'm not going to obviously give people's names out or anything like that, but I'm very public with what I do. And I guess it's just up to the individual. What they prefer, type of thing. Uh, I prefer to do things in the open because then people can't say things about you. People can't say, "Oh, what is he doing?" And who's he doing it with, type of thing. I'm letting you all know. You know what I mean? There's no secret. The greatest secret here is that there is none. That's the. I'll talk in detail about what I do. And not a lot of people do that. But I do think that there are that these secret societies. There have been many cases of crimes that have been covered up because of people have been in secret societies. Like I think Jimmy Savile in the UK, the paedophile, he was in lots of secret societies. He was in the Freemasons and lots of other ones, and basically uh, very close to the royal family as well, you know. And he was in the Athenaeum Club, and the Athenaeum Club is one of those kind of dinner clubs that I was talking about earlier. You know, lots of different, you know, establishment types would go there, and I guess that's where he would court favors from people and things like that. And yeah, people were corrupt, and they helped him out, you know. And it's not like everything he did was relegated to some, you know, smoky dressing room in the 1970s, you know. His last recorded offence was in 2009, you know, so it wasn't that long ago. So, things to learn, you know. But yeah, there is like there are people out there who think there are conspiracies being run against them, and you know I understand where a lot of those people are coming from at times, you know, because it can feel like, especially if you're speaking out about something, like there's some concerted efforts to suppress you in some way, you know, like with what you say type of thing, like knocking your credibility. Uh, so I understand where a lot of people are coming from, and where a lot of people, you know, don't want to get involved in that sort of thing in terms of talking about stuff, you know. And for me, is I'm not a grass, you know what I mean. I don't name names ever. I only talk about what I do, you know. So it's like not a problem there. I only talk about things that I do, not what other people do, you know. So, and I don't know that much, you know. I don't know anything that's fucking illegal, you know what I mean, that people have done. So, it's just not the dumb thing to just go talking about others, you know what I mean, that I have respect for, you know what I mean. So, that's where I'm coming from there. But, yeah, I think there's a lot more that goes on within secret societies than they let on, and there are a lot more. Essentially, what I think it is it's about controlling and shaping societies. All of them are, and I think a lot of them are feuding. I know for a fact that, you know, like I said earlier, the group I'm in, the pagan group, isn't a secret society, but it could be considered one by some. But I don't consider it a secret society because anyone can join, anyone can be a part of it. You know, yeah. But and in terms of like joining it, anyway, it's not like where you join and you have a formal membership card or something like that. It's an ideological, spiritual thing where you have a moment of indoctrination in of yourself. And I remember mine very, very well. It was a rainy day, and I just got this feeling that the teachings of traditional paganism were right, you know, and that I had been wrong for so long, because I used to be associated with kind of like, suppose like the Church of Satan, so that's kind of like atheistic Satanism. So I realized that the gods, you know, that I want to go towards something that says the gods are real, because I felt that they were, you know, I felt that force was real, you know, and was a supernatural one, and I felt that ideology could best express that. And by going towards that, I found that it was true. You know, I opened myself up to experiences and seeing things and experiencing things that otherwise I wouldn't have. You know, so I guess everything happens for a reason, but that isn't. I don't see that as a secret society because all the teachings and everything are available online for free. You know, it's not like Scientology where you pay fucking $1,000 to find out that everything that you were taught in it was a lie. It's not anything like that, you know. But yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if this live gets pulled though, because I was talking about the Mossad and all that stuff. But I've had my interactions with people who claim to be part of them before online, and you know, it's just a bunch of idiots, probably a bunch of bots, probably. But yeah, is anybody still there? Yeah. So yeah, it's been very warm for me recently. Too warm, you know. I like a bit of wind, you know, a bit of wind, a bit of rain, you know, a bit of storm, you know, a bit of interesting weather, you know, because it keeps me on my toes, I think, and it's the elements being cathartic, I suppose, enable the magic to happen a lot easier. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of interesting topics. You know, I think I have in this short amount of time. You know, and I think that honestly, there's a few more that I'd like to cover. You know, because I did say secret societies and open discussion. So I guess this is the open discussion part. And so apparently, Vice are going to be doing this thing about like things of like biggest things of the 2000s, and they're going to be covering like Howard Stern and Opie and Anthony. But according to Opie from Opie and Anthony, who's a good friend of mine, uh, he apparently hasn't even been contacted about it, you know. And you'd think if they were making something about Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern that they'd contact Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern, you know. So it's Vice is going bankrupt as well, and OP was telling the story earlier about how he was out once with the main guys from Vice and how they were like gambling 10 grand a hand and constantly like losing loads of money at a casino. So that's probably why they're going bankrupt, you know. Because obviously I don't mind the gamble, but I'm not a problem gambler, you know what I mean? If I lose once, I stop, you know, and I never bet like ridiculous amounts of money anyway. But yeah, there's a lot of fucking hell. There's a lot of people who are awake to what's going on in the world at the moment, and the system don't like that, and they're going to bring in some laws that are going to restrict what people can say. That's what they're going to do, and there's going to be hell to pay for it. And it's up to everyone in the world to stand up for their rights, you know, and resist any laws that restrict freedom of speech, you know, under whatever guise they're proposed, you know, because I don't trust the government to set those barriers, you know, as they can be used and abused, and they have been, and they will be again, you know. So that's the situation we're in, you know, and it's a damn shame that the world is the way it is, but we can do something about it without having to like, you know, fire any shots type of thing. You know, we can just have a kind of an awakening type of thing where we just don't want to subscribe to that type of living anymore. Where we don't rely on the government for anything anymore. We just provide for ourselves and live off the land. And that's what they don't want us doing. They don't want us to be self-sufficient. They need people to rely on them for them to exist. They're just legitimizing their own existence, really. And this is a great mechanism to be able to get opinions that are quite left field out there, because in the past you'd be very restricted on what you could say, where you could say it, to everything, because the television shows and radio aren't going to allow, or didn't allow, won't allow, certainly not now, people who have dissenting views. So it's very useful to have this. Not that this isn't a big censor place, because they'd like to come after you for anything here. But thankfully for me, I've not had anything come my way, strikes or anything. So I've just been lucky in that sense. But I'm sure it'd do me for swearing or something, something stupid like that, but it's just what you've got to put up. I guess what I've got to put up with. There's other sites where you can say what you want, without fear of censorship, but they're just not as big as this place is. Can't get your voice out loud enough, and I think that's what most people want. I'm not doing this for subscribers or for money. I'm doing this just for fun, and to exercise my rights of free speech, and to talk about things I find interesting, which is government conspiracy theories and lots of conspiracy theories in general, and I've been hearing one about the fact that people believe that Kanye West has been replaced by a clone, and I don't know what to think of that. I really don't, because it wouldn't surprise me if they had that kind of technology available, but I just don't know if that's what's going on. You know what I mean? If it's not just I think maybe he's been, put into a position where, like, for all the stress, that he's gone mad type of thing, and losing like his divorce and things like that, and the stress of what he does, he's just gone kind of mad. But I guess I don't know what to really think of it, and there's a few conspiracy theories that I'm not too sure on, like but I guess I keep my mind open to all of them. But I'm going to get off now because I've gone on longer than I thought I was going to go on for. So thank you everyone for being here. Suicidal Porn Star, Punksy, Connie, and everyone for who was watching, who didn't comment, and everyone in the replay as well. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry for not giving you all a big of heads up as I would have usually have done. This was quite a slapdash last minute thing, as they sometimes can be in this channel. But I appreciate you all for taking the time to come and watch. So have a nice day, evening, morning, whatever. So take care. Goodbye.